Hey, everybody, I'm here with Suzanne Salami of Sealed with Integrity up in Northern California. And I'm thrilled to be able to talk to her today about her journey as a mobile notary and why it paid off for her. And so we're just going to dive right into it. Welcome, Suzanne.
Hi, good morning, and thank you for
Hey.
having me again.
Can you start us off by just telling us what really triggered you to want to get into the mobile notary business to begin with? When was that? What was happening in your life at the time?
I got into this industry because I wanted flexibility. I wanted to be the wife and mom and caregiver to my kids. I came from a W-2 job that was very demanding. And while I was very successfully moving up the ladder, it took me closer to making a great income and being successful career wise. But then I felt like I was missing out on those milestones at home.
Share some more about some of the challenges you did overcome or some of the ways that you did have to kind of persevere, and some of the questions, you had, like, should I have quit my job? Like, was there ever doubt and
Yes.
concern?
I'm so glad that you said that because the journey has not been an easy journey and it didn't just fall in my lap. My first year in business, I lost money, as most people do. Um, and I only had 17 appointments in a 6 month span. And a lot of it was because of confidence. I've met so many notaries that have sat on their commissions for 4 years because it's the fear of the unknown. And what we do every day, and I'm this June, I will be celebrating my 10-year anniversary doing this.
Wow. Hmm.
And so I'm super excited, but the challenge that we face every day is we don't know what we're walking into. It could be a document we've never seen before. It could be a situation we've never been in before. And while that's scary, it's also exciting
Hmm.
because it's an opportunity to learn and grow. And so that first couple of years, a lot of it was getting out of my comfort zone, is stepping out of my comfort zone and saying, okay, this is not something that I would normally do. And even though a lot of people see me as being an extroverted person, I'm actually very introverted, even with my family. Like I'm the quiet one. I'm the one that, if people come to my house, it's a very mellow experience. We're not loud, even though I come from a very loud family. I'm more of a, let me just kind of sit back and observe. And so every time I walk into an appointment with someone, I have to find something that can connect me on a personal level with that person. Because when you can connect with somebody on a personal level, it sets an impression. Something that always resonates with me is Maya Angelou. She said, "People will forget what you've said, they will forget what you've done, but they will never forget how you make them feel."
Right on.
And for me, every day, it's okay. How can I leave that impression? So when I leave here, this person is going to remember me. I'm going to leave a good impression.
When you first started out 10 years ago, there was a lot less support out there for notaries, um, uh, uh, less places to find community, to find education, to share your experiences. And now, I mean, with social media and just all the great information that's out there, I just want to encourage you all, find that community. I mean, that's really, Suzanne, you mentioned that's how you actually started, was a networking group. and
Yeah.
and now there are so many different networking groups and meetups all around. um, some really great influencers out there, who are, on social media, sharing their experiences so you don't feel alone. And
Hmm.
so yeah, I think that you were a pioneer back 10 years ago in trying to find that confidence and get out there. That's what you've done over the years, is you've
It
realized that you have to put yourself out there. That's how you get the confidence.
Yes, and to touch on that, that's why it's so important to collaborate with other people in the industry. Lean on your colleagues, find the right group. Not every group is going to be the right group for every person, and that's
Right.
okay. Um, and take the information that you see on social media with a grain of salt because that can also be deflating. As encouraging
True.
as it is,
Hmm.
and as wonderful as it is to learn from other people's experiences, especially when they share a story and you're able to take a nugget, or if there's a question that you can rely on that, but also take it with a grain of salt, because sometimes it can be overwhelming. And with 10 years of experience under my belt, it still is overwhelming to me. When I go onto social media platforms and I just see the constant, it makes me feel like I'm not doing enough, or I'm not enough, or I'm not, like, so
Mm.
be careful with that.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
find what works for you. And I have done training through several platforms. I think I have done training with at least four different, maybe five different platforms. Um, and it's because everyone teaches it a different way, and everyone teaches something just slightly different. And if you think that you know it all, then you have nowhere to there's nowhere to go. And our goal is to keep growing, right? Our goal
Yeah.
is to move up from here. And so education is key. Knowledge is power. Um, find your group. Like, top of my head, I'm thinking of four different ladies that I have connected with that are all in California, that I lean on when I'm having a day, or I'm frustrated. I don't vent on social media because that's unprofessional. But I will, go on there, and I will reach out to my colleagues and say, hey, this happened and this is what I did. What do you think? I call the NNA hotline if I'm really in a jam. Um, it's really important to know where your resources are. And unlike 10 years ago, there are so many resources available to you. And your niche may be loans, but your colleague or your neighbor down the block that also does notaries might do jail signings. I don't do jail signings. I don't speak Spanish. I speak Arabic. Where are you going to find your connection in the community so that you can provide a better service?
Let's go back to closer to the beginning because I'd like to hear. I'm sure some of the notaries out there are wondering, did you focus more on mobile general type notary work, or is Laura B, or we call it specialty notary work? Or did you go into loan signings and really, focus on the loan signing aspect of being a notary?
I did do some loans, but I did mostly general notary work, working with the public. I do work with title and escrow and lenders directly. I have a couple of signing services that I'll work with, but a majority of my work is working with the public directly. Working with the public directly, working with attorneys. Um, attorneys are kind of hit or miss because a lot of attorneys themselves are notaries. And so it's mostly when they have a client out of their area and in my area, or if they have a homebound closing where they don't do home visits or
Right.
hospital visits. I even get escrow officers from out of state contact me versus them going through a platform or finding me in their preferred notary database. They'll go on the internet and they'll find me that way. They'll do a search for a notary in my area and they find me that way. And that just again is because printing gave me, and still to this day is one of my challenges. So when we talk
Right.
about challenges, it's technology. I'm not a tech savvy person. The printer is very touch and go. I've gotten better with it because I've had the same printer for the last 10 years. It's probably time to replace it. But that and especially if we don't get documents until the very last minute, I like to be prepared. I like to go through my documents in advance. I like to go through my checklist with my clients. And if I'm not getting those documents until I'm walking out the door, and then I get there and realize that their names are spelled wrong, or they used an abbreviated name, or they used a maiden name but the documents are in their married name, those sorts of things, just like, I like to catch them in advance.
You have to find your niche. You have to find what's comfortable for you. And you've realized that for you, those direct connections with the general public and providing more general notary work support is what works for you. And so that's, that's a sign of someone who really knows their weaknesses and their strengths and plays on their strengths. I saw a meme the other day, and it was like, if your child is struggling in math but is really good at soccer, don't hire them a math tutor, hire them a soccer coach. And I thought that was a really neat perspective. I like
Yes,
that. Focus on
it's
your
true.
strengths. I wanted to ask you, when it comes to reward beyond the monetary, what would you say has been really rewarding for you as a mobile notary?
When I walk into an environment, especially when it's someone who is setting up their trust, for example, um, to know that I help them so that it prevents those other occasions when I walk into an appointment and someone is at end of life and now we can't notarize their signatures, knowing that I've made a difference. I had a client not too long ago, um, and I screen all of my calls. I want to make sure that I'm walking into, number one, a safe environment, number two, a prepared environment, and number three, that I'm not walking into an environment where someone might be forced to do something that they're not wanting to do. And so I got a call, and it was from a gentleman who was looking for a mobile notary for their mother in law. And so prompts me to ask questions, make sure that, are they a sound mind? Do they have ID? Do they speak English? Do they understand what they're signing? Do they want to sign? And so I get to, once we've established all of that, we get to the appointment, and the mother in law is very amicable and she's very happy to sign the documents. But it made her feel like her daughter and son in law were preparing for her to die. Like, it made
Yeah.
her feel like it was an end of life, like they were anticipating that she was going to die any minute.
Mm.
And I had to reassure her and say, I know that you feel that way, but this is the best thing that you could have done by establishing your trust. I said, I have a trust. She's like, you have a trust? I said, I have a trust. She goes, you're so young though. Why do you have a trust? I said, a trust is not just for people that are elderly. It's important that if you have children that are young or you own any form of assets, that you control what happens to those once you pass on. You don't want the government to come in and make those choices for you.
Right.
You want to make your decisions known in advance, and being very careful not to advise. I don't want her to
Yeah.
think I'm advising her, but just reassuring her that their intention was not to put her in the grave. Their intention was to provide her the support that she needed.
Mhm.
And she felt so much better after
Mhm.
that. And you could see her face was just the sense of relief that she had, knowing that, okay, it's not because they were trying to, she and when I do a trust signing and there, or especially powers of attorney, I ask them, and I typically clear the room, and I ask them what their wishes are. Who do they want to be their agent? How do they want their, like, without getting into the nitty gritty of their documents because I can't advise them, but making sure that they know what is in those documents and that their wishes are reflected in those documents is important, because they may know who they want to act as their agent, but if the person who prepared the documents didn't identify that person, then that's a, hey, we're stopping. We're not
Mhm.
moving forward. And so seeing that sense of relief. So those, professionally, that those types of situations are the most rewarding. Knowing that I was able to help somebody accomplish something that can have such a profound impact on themselves and their loved ones once they pass on.
How do you go out and get the work?
For me, the work is word of mouth. It's referrals. Every person you touch has value, because you don't know who they know and who they know and when they're going to need you again. Maybe this time it was one signature. Maybe next time it's their trust and it's 16 signatures. Treat everyone with value and respect, and I assure you that you will get that return. It will pay itself forward.
You shed light on the fact that it's the relationships, it's the people, it's the community, and the other notaries that you can find in your circle. Those are the wonderful ways to build your business. So thank you for that perspective.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you having me. You guys are amazing. I love working with you, and I am honored that you would even want to have this conversation. So thank you.